Good evening, and welcome as I take you on a tribute to Aharon HaKohen, the high priest. A few weeks ago, we paid tribute to Big Sister Miriam, and a little bit before that, we spoke about Moshe and his humility. And now we're going to talk about the middle one, Aharon, the older brother, eldest son of Yocheved and Amram. And there's actually quite a bit about him in the Torah, and it turns out to be a fascinating journey into the life of a very special man. So allow me to take you there, please. Aharon, Kohen Gadol, happens to be his yartzeit today, 1st of Av, and it's actually the only yartzeit that is recorded in the Torah. The only date that's recorded in the Torah is the date of somebody's passing. We've worked out from our sources when Moshe was passed on, and it's worked out in the Talmud with a fair level of accuracy. We have traditions about other great people and when they passed away. But about Aharon, it's actually in this past week's parsha, portion of Mas'eh, where it says that Aharon went up, and it tells us the date when it was the first day of the fifth month, because we start with Nisan, so it gives us a Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, and Av, the month that began today is the fifth month, and Aharon passed away in that fifth month on the first day. So today gives us his age, and that is how we know that this is the date. So it's appropriate that today we should pay tribute to him, particularly as we have the teaching of Hillel. And Hillel tells us we must be disciples of Aharon. So to be a disciple, we need to know about them, their life, and what they stood for. And this is where it becomes very important to understand what Aharon stood for, what his life was all about. So as I mentioned, he was the eldest son of Amram and Yocheved. Miriam was the eldest, and then there was Aharon, the middle brother, and then there was Moshe, the youngest. And that is a very important factor to understand how Aharon rose to the fame and to the greatness that he did. Because Aharon ends up being passed up. Moshe is the younger one, but Moshe is the one chosen by Hashem as the leader of the Jewish people. And we have, at the burning bush, a lengthy discussion between Hashem and Moshe, and Moshe expresses huge reluctance at taking on the position of the leadership of the Jewish people. He doesn't spell it out, but from Hashem's response to him, it would seem that part of his reservation is the fact that it should really go to the elder, to Aharon, and he's not comfortable pushing his way ahead, and in that way possibly hurting or upsetting Aharon. And Hashem says to him, it's fine, it's okay. And this is taken straight out of that dialogue at the bush, where Hashem actually becomes upset with Moshe. What does he say to him? He says to him, he's setting out to meet you and will be happy to see you. Not just happy to see you because they've been separated for many, many years, and now there's a reunion and brotherly love. He'll be happy to see you because he's not going to resent the fact that basically he's going to be your spokesperson. He's going to be speaking on your behalf. And Moshe had his last argument had been, I have a speech defect, I have a problem, I can't easily talk. And Hashem says to him, Moshe Aaron, he's going to be the spokesperson. Daber, Daberu, he speaks readily. He's going to be the spokesperson. He will go to Pharaoh as the verses continue, and he will. But as far as your reservation in that you think he's going to be upset at the fact that he's being passed up, don't worry about that. He's going to be extremely happy. Now, here is a fascinating comment by Rashi, but it's taken from the Medrash Rabbah. Not as you believe that he's going to be angry to see you because you attain a high position. He's going to be happy. He's going to be glad in his heart. But then Rashi quotes the end of the second clause in the statement of the Talmud, and he says, as a result, Aaron was privileged to wear the ornament of the breastplate, which was placed over his heart. As a result of being able to be happy for his brother, even though he was being passed up, and possibly could have, in his mind, thought he should be the one chosen because he ended up being Kohen Gadol. He ended up, with the breastplate, which is the symbol of the Kohen Gadol. And let's just have a look at this. A Torah has been filled with sibling rivalries, and the ones that we've explored until now have been pathetic. We've began the story in the book of Bereshit with Cain and Abel, Cain and Hevel, and what happens? This is a disaster. Of course, that results in fratricide, and then we have a whole series of older brothers feeling passed up and younger brothers rising to greater fame, and it ends in kind of different levels of disaster, from Yishmael and Yitzchak, where Yishmael is the older one, but clearly he's being sidelined, and he just remains away and doesn't try to interact at all, to next generation, Yaakov and Esav, where there's kind of eventually a cold peace, even though there's a confrontation where Esav is, trying to kill Yaakov, but then they make peace and they come to terms with, and they've got this, cold relationship, and they stay out of each other's way for the rest of their lives, but they kind of try to be friends again, and then we have Joseph and his brothers. Again, he is the youngest, one of the younger ones, and he is being favored by the father. Resentment, that kind of also goes quite bad, but when there's reconciliation, there's complete and total reconciliation, and he accepts them and embraces them and looks after them and shows them great love, and even in the end, when they perceive that maybe after their father dies, he's not acting the way he previously had, he reassures them that he's managed to expunge all that hatred from his heart, and there's complete reconciliation. Now we get to the next stage of the story, next book, book of Shemot, Moshe and Aharon. Moshe is the younger one because he's being promoted to great heights, to the leadership of the Jewish people. He's being tasked with the mission of taking the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. And Aharon, from day one, embraces us and is happy, and in fact rejoices in his heart. As a result, he merits to be the Kohen Gadol with the breastplate, as you saw in the picture earlier on. What's the connection? The connection is this. Why was that a tribe of Levi chosen? Why were the Kohanim made into priests? It was actually a plan B. Initially, it was meant to be the firstborn. They were going to be the servants of Hashem. They were going to be the ones who served and worshipped in the temple on a roster basis, the eldest in each family. And then there was a problem. It went wrong. And now we have the golden calf, and no longer are the firstborn all eligible to serve. Who is going to be worthy of taking over that role? Aaron and family, because Aaron is the one who kind of, showed that although he is the eldest, he felt no resentment, no jealousy, and no upset at the role that was being given to Aaron. In that way, he merited that position of, firstbornhood forevermore. And so he and his sons and all generations to come are going to be the priests, are going to be the substitutes for the firstborns who were meant to worship in that service. And that's what happens. Aaron becomes Kohen Gadol, his children are appointed Kohanim, and from that onwards it becomes a hereditary position, a hereditary situation where they inherit from him. The only one that didn't immediately inherit it was his grandson Pinchas, who was already alive and born, at the time of the appointment, but he subsequently merited to be appointed Kohen as well. So we're talking about a remarkable character in his acceptance of other people's success and fame and glory. Now, Aaron himself went through a very difficult personal tragedy, and of course that's the one we read about in the portion of Shmini and Achremot, and that was on his day of glory, on the day when he finally merits to become the Kohen Gadol, and ascends into that position, because until then, for the first week, it was Moshe who served and inaugurated the temple. He finally comes forward, stands up on the platform, is acting as Kohen Gadol, and he loses two of his children on that day, very tragically. And what's his reaction? So the Torah says, Moshe said to him, this is what Hashem meant when he said, through those near to me, I show myself holy, and gain glory before all the people. That's a very difficult pill to swallow for Moshe to hear his brother say, well, this is God's will. And he said that through this tragedy, his name is going to be glorified. And the fact that Aaron was able to remain silent in the face of such tragedy is nothing short of remarkable. His appointment was divinely ordained, yet it was challenged. Of course, the most difficult challenge was that of Korach, who argued that Aaron does not deserve to be Kohen Gadol, that he wishes to be Kohen Gadol, that the entire nation is holy, and why should there be special consideration given to Moshe, his brother, nepotism, and so forth. And we know how that ended. There were those who were swallowed by the ground, but those who actually challenged the position of Kohen Gadol, those were the other families of the Levites who went into the temple with pans of incense, and that consumed them in their past. As a result of this action, because it was only the Kohen Gadol who was allowed to enter, and only Kohanim who were allowed to offer incense altogether. So, the incense in itself wasn't dangerous, it wasn't bad. In fact, Aaron used the incense later in the same rebellion to end a plague where lots of people were dying as a result of the rebellion and memory. So that shows that that in itself is not dangerous, is not bad. The incense, Aaron could use it positively, and of course his choice was further confirmed by the famous story of the stick of Aaron, the staff of Aaron, that suddenly grew almonds, flowers, and that showed the clear choice of Hashem, of Aaron. But let's go back to that statement of Hillel that we need to all be disciples of Aaron, because possibly the most remarkable feature about Aaron was the fact that, as I mentioned in the title, he was the quintessential man of peace. So this is the full statement of Hillel. He says, be a disciple of Aaron who loved peace and pursued peace, loving mankind and drawing them close to the Torah. So Aaron spent his life not just loving peace, but pursuing peace. And there is a commentary on Pirkei Avot, from which this Mishnah is extracted, that probably you've heard these stories before, but he goes into detail as to how Aaron went about spreading peace and pursuing peace in an active way. So, quoting from Prophet Malachi, Torah of truth was in his mouth, and the crooked thing was on his lips. He walked with me in peace and righteousness, and he pulled back many from sin. So says Avot Rebbe Natan, this medrash on Pirkei Avot. What does it mean? He pulled back many from sin. Aaron's walking down the road, and he greets people, and he said hello, and because of the warmth with which Aaron embraces this individual and the love that he shows him and the warmth that he shows him, this person kind of says, no, I'm a friend of Aaron, and he greets me, and tomorrow I'm going to see him again. And so Rabim Heshiv Me'avon, he was able to stop people from sinning simply by showing them love, showing them care, and wanting, making those people live up to the role of being one whom Aharon greets. And then Avot Reb Natan goes on to talk about how he pursued peace and the method of Aharon. He would sit down with the one party in the fight and prevail upon them that really the other person was very aggrieved at the way they had acted and very upset about it. And as soon as that happened, he would then go to the other person in the fight and he would do the same. And he's so upset and he's so devastated. And the result is that when those two people saw each other, they would embrace and kiss one another. So is that absolute truth? Not necessarily. But Shalom and Emet are two very different approaches to how we go, about life. So Moshe was a man of emet. Moshe was a man of absolute, complete truth, and he would not deviate from the truth in any way. But to pursue peace, sometimes you have to bend the truth a little bit. This was the amazing combination of these two brothers, that they were able to behave. That they were able to partners in an amazing way, with Aaron using that attribute of peace, and Moshe, using the absolute attribute of emet, which was his. But besides pursuing peace in the community, Aaron was also known as the master marriage counselor. And Avot Reb Natan says there were thousands who were named Aharon. Why were they named Aharon? Because he brought peace between husbands and wives. And then when they reconciled, they would then name their child after Aharon. So obviously that custom, which is not prevailing among Ashkenazi Jews in particular, not to name after a living person, that didn't exist then yet. And there were lots and lots and lots, thousands, I think he says here, right? Many thousands in Israel who named their child Aaron, so lots of Aarons in the community, and that's a measure of how he treated them all and restored Shalom Bayit between husbands and wives, and reconciled them and got them together again. So indeed, Aaron's passing is recorded in the Torah, not just the date, which was mentioned in last week's parasha, but going back a few weeks, it actually describes in quite a bit of detail how he passed away. And this is when Hashem says to Moshe and Aaron, the time has come, and Aaron must be gathered to his kin. He's not going to enter the land, and this is, of course, because he has they disobeyed Hashem's word at the waters of Meribah, which, without going into detail, they were supposed to speak to the rock. They failed to do so. They struck the rock, and the result is this: they are not allowed to go into the Holy Land. And he then instructs him as to how this passing and passing away as well as passing on of his role is going to take place. And this is remarkable in that Aaron actually saw the induction of his son Elazar into service, because they all went up to the mountain, and Aaron removed his garments, and they were then placed onto Elazar, and that's how he was inducted into the service, and that's where Aaron passed away. And the Torah describes how it happened. They went up the mountain in sight of the whole community, and Moshe helped Aaron to remove his garments and put them on Elazar, and then he died there at the top of the mountain, Hor Hahar, and Moshe and Elazar come down very sadly without Aharon. But listen to this. The entire community knew that Aaron had breathed his last. All the house of Israel bewailed Aaron 30 days. In fact, the way the mourning is described here, the entire house of Israel, and that what Moshe just says that the men mourned, and I'm sure the ladies were also upset, but here it makes the point, it's Kol Beit Yisrael, the entire house of Israel, everybody, men, ladies, because of the Shalom Bayit, because of the peace that he brought between spouses, and because of the peace that he brought between people in the community. There was extreme sadness at his passing, and there was lengthy mourning as a result. And the commentaries make this, it's a 30-day mourning that involves Kol Beit Yisrael, the entire house of Israel. So that's Aaron. And let's just leave you with one last posthumous fact about Aharon. The Torah tells us that once Aharon died, the Canaanite kings came to attack. The commentary said what happened here was that the clouds of glory that protected the Jews and prevented any attack at any point from any other nation, they disappeared. So besides the fact that those clouds of glory protected them from the elements, and we also know that they had the property of kind of keeping their clothes clean, ironed, and growing with them as they went from infants to full-size adults, and maybe even in adulthood as they indulged in too much quail and manna, I guess. Clothes had to be taken out of size and another size and another size, and then you went on a diet, had to shrink again. So that was a property of the clouds of glory. It also prevented any enemy armies or any of their weapons, missiles, spears, arrows, etc., from penetrating. So they were safe within that. But as soon as Aharon dies, it says that the king of Arad comes across and he attacks the Jewish people. So it seems that the clouds of glory have left. And they did. And that's when the Jews discover that the clouds of glory were actually there in the merit of Aharon. There was water from the well of Miriam, as we call it, and those were obviously there, as a result of Miriam's merit. And the manna from heaven came as a result of Moshe's merit. So Moshe brings them manna, Miriam brings them water, and Aharon clouds of glory. And why is it that clouds of glory specifically connected with Aharon? Maybe this has to do with this property of being the, as I said, quintessential man of peace, that pursued what? Achdut, unity in the community. And that is something that is the characteristics of the clouds of glory. Let's go back. Moshe and the manna. But the manna is different for every individual in the way it's received. The righteous received it. Well, first of all, each family was allotted an individual specific portion. but also the properties of the manna and the effort that had to be put into retrieving it depended on the merit of the individual. If you were a very righteous person, then the manna was right outside your front door, back door, wherever. And also, it can be made to taste in the most amazing, fantastic ways, and you could prepare it, and it was nourishing in an unbelievable way. And the less meritorious you were, well, the less of those properties, the more effort you had to go. That's what the Torah describes. I came to the manna. Some people just went out and got it, and other people had to go out and collect it. And that's what the commentaries say. Well, it depends on their own level of merit, whether they would find outside their door or elsewhere. So the manna was very individual and individualized. It was individual in that each person had an allotted portion, separate from the other people's, and it was also individualized. In that, it was different experience for every single individual. The water of Miriam, it was all one source, one well, but it divided up. And so it started out as one stream, but then it kind of subdivided into 12 streamlets, tributaries, and each tribe then had its own source of water. So even the well which came as a result of Miriam also had that differentiation, so to speak. Comes to the clouds of glory that is in the merit of Aharon. It's one set of clouds that encompasses and surrounds the entire Klal Israel, all of the Jewish people. In fact, on Sukkot, we dwell in the sukkah, and the reason for this, besides the tents that the Jews built, but the commentaries say, Talmud tells us that it's to remember the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory. So the sukkah that we build, and that's why there's actually a very interesting expression in the Gemara that says, by right, all Jews could dwell in one sukkah. Now, why say that? Really, what the Talmud is trying to say is that the sukkah doesn't have to have a particular minimal size. How does it express that? By saying, well, you could build a sukkah where the entire Jewish people could fit. Now, try and picture that. It means that no individual has to have, a particularly big space for himself. You only just need to barely fit the sukkah, and that's good enough. So that's how it's expressed. And you don't have to have ownership of a sukkah of a certain size. But why use that expression? All Jews could dwell in one sukkah, if not to tell us that the sukkah is there as the clouds of glory encompass all of Klal Yisrael as one, and that is, of course, the midah, the measure of Aharon, who tried to preserve the integrity and the oneness of the entire Klal of Israel as one. So today, being Rosh Chodesh Av, we pay tribute to Aharon, we remember Aharon, and may his merit protect all of us. And most importantly, may he help us all and inspire us all to make sure that Shalom reigns in our homes and beyond. Thank you and good night.